All right. Hello and welcome to the Leave Off Love podcast. We're your hosts, Evelyn and Veronica. This is a podcast where we talk about life after high demand religion. When we were deconstructing, there weren't a lot of resources about the crazy kind of Catholicism we'd found ourselves in, so we decided to be a resource for others in that place. We may have left the church, but we're still laughing and loving. No matter where you're at with your faith, we're so happy you're here today. Hello and welcome. Today, Veronica is going to be giving us a little bit of an overview of Franciscan University's new links to DC. And I feel like this is, we've been saying, everyone's been saying that religious fundamentalism and Christian nationalism, obviously they want to be deeply involved in the government. But I'm loving that they're just straight up making a mission field in DC now.
Right.
We're going to be yapping all about that. Before we get into all of that, Veronica, welcome to Small Group.
Thank you, Evelyn.
What is your rose and thorn today?
My rose is the really cute blind date with a book that you gave me for my birthday yesterday. It was really cute. It was in pink wrapping, and there was a little card with the info, and it said, "This is a contemporary romance, a sapphic romance, a slightly spicy open door romance." And I'm super excited to read it. The book looks so cute. It came with really cute stickers stuck in it too, like pride stickers and book stickers, and a really cute one that Evelyn picked out for me.
It's shaped like Jesus and it says, "Girl, is that smut?"
It's perfect. It's like those Jesus ones where the Jesus is poking his head out the door. Oh my gosh, it was perfect.
Which I feel like we actually used to have one of those.
Yeah, there used to be one on the door of the Oregon house. Yeah, so when you walk in, it was like on the door frame. But yeah, that was definitely my rose. I love it. My thorn is probably our 15-hour travel day yesterday, or my 15-hour travel day. I wasn't traveling the whole 15 hours, but it was 15 hours from the time I left my house to the time I got back to the house where we were staying in the evening. And that was just a long time to be out and about, trying to be alert and
social,
functioning and aware of my surroundings. But, we're here now, and we just did our little Diet Coke and French fry run.
Oh my God. And it was so needed. I feel revitalized. I feel reborn. I feel renewed. So
that was a hack you found out a couple years ago with the pots
oh my God,
the sugar, caffeine, carbs, and salt.
It just does something.
It's just the perfect combo.
Yeah. Yeah. Incredible.
So that's me. What about you, Ev? What's your rose and thorn for today?
I would say that my rose, sorry, I had time to think about this. I think that my rose is just like the beautiful weather here. Now that we're in Denver, it's so nice out. And just the tree, it's not like anything's in full swing fall, but there's some yellow aspen trees, and that's way more color than I'm seeing out in LA right now. So it's wonderful. It's great. It's beautiful. It's lovely. I would say my thorn is probably just the scramble of packing and everything, which I fully do to myself.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like Veronica's just looking at the mess that I've made out of my cross-stitch thread.
No, that's okay, because you know what I do? I put one end in my mouth to try to have 3 tension places. So I hold it in my mouth and then hold with either hand. And that's how I do it. But that would definitely look weird on camera. So
yeah, I'm going to not do that right now, but I love that for you, Queen.
I'll show you later.
Sounds great.
Helpful for you. But on that note, I'll leave you to figure that out while luckily I'm the one with the notes, and I will be telling you all about Franciscan University's new Homeland Mission in DC. It's called the Homeland Mission.
Love that.
Cue whatever you want to say about the Homeland propaganda stuff that we have in general in our world right now. So Franciscan recently kicked off this donor-funded program in Washington, D.C. called the Franciscan University Homeland Mission. It started with a festival of praise and holy hour at St. Patrick's Catholic Church on the evening of Monday, September 22nd. And St. Patrick's is also hosting a Transitus service, actually today, this evening, the day we're recording this, to commemorate the death of St. Francis, his feast day. I guess that's actually tomorrow, sorry. But anyway, the day before St. Francis's feast day is the night that Franciscan religious orders celebrate the Transitus liturgy, sort of unofficial liturgy that they have to commemorate the death of St. Francis. So it's just kicked off with a couple small prayer things for now, and it's hard to find information about what exactly their goals are. So I'm just going to read to you from their website. This is a March 5th, 2025 press release about this program. Franciscan University of Steubenville dedicates new Washington, D.C. mission to equip students for public service. At an event to celebrate a major expansion effort to to celebrate a major expansion effort to prepare, connect, and engage students in the political and cultural work of the nation's capital, Franciscan officially dedicated the new Ward and Kathy Fitzgerald, who were the donors who donated $10 million to this, the new Ward and Kathy Fitzgerald Franciscan University Homeland Mission in Washington, D.C. on February 28th. The Homeland Mission will play an integral role in equipping students to serve as joyful disciples in the public arena, advancing the missionary cause of positively impacting the principles and policies guiding the United States government. About 175 people attended the dedication event, which was held immediately after the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. Shout out to you if you've ever attended the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. Like me, it's just an event.
Can just anyone go to that, or no? I feel right.
I went with Franciscan, actually, with the Center for Leadership program. It was like open to being offered. I think it was like the day after, or it was like a Tuesday after Easter. So I just stayed home with my parents an extra day, and it's in DC. And so I met up with them in Annapolis and went from there. Anyway, the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast is really funny because it's like it's a mini Catholic political gathering at like 7 in the morning, from 7 to 10 a.m. in a hotel, ballroom. And they have like speakers and all the tabling, all the Catholic organizations are there tabling, and then they give out an award. And there was not any prayer, let me tell you, at this National Catholic Prayer Breakfast.
Sure, there was like some.
There was like a little opening prayer and a little prayer over the food. It wasn't actually a big praying, so I don't really understand. But apparently this year, Franciscan hosted its dedication immediately following the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast.
Lovely.
So this is some words that the president of Franciscan University, Father Dave Pavanka, TOR, said during the dedication. We at Franciscan University are invited to be light, so we are spreading that light from one hill in Steubenville to another hill here in Washington, D.C. Capitol Hill, if you will. That was my aside, sorry. We believe the Lord is inviting us to do something radically different here in the nation's capital. This is what the Homeland Mission is all about. It's about bringing a sense of transformation and change to a city that desperately needs the light of God. Because, America's falling apart, and the country is falling apart, and the capital needs Jesus, clearly.
DC, of course.
Of course.
Everything, all that.
Through the Homeland Mission, Franciscan students will have access, support, and encouragement to participate fully at the highest levels of the legislative process and to do it with a missionary spirit. The initiative has been made possible thanks to a transformative $10 million donation by Ward and Kathy Fitzgerald. More on them coming later in the episode. The donation allowed the university to acquire the residential and learning facilities that will serve as a dedicated hub for the university's mission in Washington, D.C. So I was really interested when I was doing the research for this and trying to figure out what form has this mission taken on, because when I was still in Steubenville at the time, I was hearing from inside sources kind of the ins and outs of how they had received this very big donation specifically for a DC mission. And so then now what does that look like?
Right.
I learned a lot from being at Franciscan about how funding works and how donors work, and how, sometimes you might get a very hefty donation and it's always earmarked for something that the donor wants it to go to. So then you're like obligated to follow through on that, and then trying to figure out like, what does that even look like for us to have a presence in Washington, D.C.? We're just a university in Ohio. Is this like a satellite campus where students can live and work while taking online classes? Is this like a facility we run for like summer internship vibes or gap semester internship vibes? As they're trying to figure things out, looking at properties and trying to see how the whole thing unfolded. So it really was driven by Ward and Kathy Fitzgerald making this $10 million donation to kickstart this. Here is what Ward and his wife Kathy said during the dedication event. We are hollow vessels for the Lord. We want to thank you at Franciscan University for being who you are and being what you are, so that we can participate in glorifying God through you and through the vessels that we become. It really is a gift for us to be able to give to a place like Franciscan University. Wonderful. All programs and events at the Homeland Mission are centered around challenging students to work and witness for ongoing systematic change in government, placing the human dignity of all people at the center.
That sounds lovely, but I know that's not where this is really going.
Here's what one guy, he is Andrew Bremberg, is the president emeritus of the Victims of Communism Foundation.
Okay.
Okay, so he's an ambassador. I don't know That's what this article says. He spoke. He's a Franciscan alum, and he highlighted how different the university's mission will be from other institutions that expand into DC. This initiative is not just an expansion of Franciscan University. It is a bold step forward in forming faithful Catholic leaders who will serve our country and the church in a time of great need. You know, I've now heard 3 different people. Okay, we've heard from the president, from the donor, and from an alumnus in DC, and I still know nothing about what the Homeland Mission is actually doing. So let's move on to the first group of students to take part in the Homeland Initiative who were in attendance at the dedication ceremony. Speakers at the event said the facility will not be used just for poli-sci students, but will host programs for students in all areas of academics. A senior philosophy and poli-sci major who was in attendance said she was excited to see all the great work Frannies were going to do in DC in the years to come. Washington needs what we have to offer. As a student who feels called to take my next steps here in DC, it is incredibly exciting to know that the Franciscan community will be here to walk with me. That's a typo. So sorry, Franny. Marcom, get on that. Please know that not only is the gift of this beautiful property valued with appreciation, but we students also understand it as a call to action. God is building up the body of Christ, etc., etc. Great. So far, the only things that I can see happening. Oh, there's also a Flickr link to pictures, by the way, of the dedication. The first event officially, which was marketed to Franciscan University alumni as like its kickoff event, was literally last week. And it was dedicated, in February at the National Catholic Prayer Breakfast. So it took a while for them to actually do anything that was open to the public, but they did host this FOP last week, a parish church in DC.
FOP, for those who are not familiar, is a festival of praise.
So that was hosted. They had the FOP at the church, and then afterwards they had reservations at a local pub bar for drinks and apps after, like a little social. So here's what the Franciscan University Alumni Relations page had to say on LinkedIn about the kickoff FOP. We're so excited. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said excited. We're so grateful to our DC alumni, parents, and friends that joined us for the Encounter DC Festival of Praise last night and our partnership with St. Patrick's Catholic Church in DC. So I think that they're calling like the Catholic prayer stuff that they're doing Encounter DC.
Okay.
Being hosted by Franciscan University Homeland Mission.
All right.
My vibe. With nearly 100 people at the event and about 40 people at the social, it was an incredible night of prayer, worship, and fellowship. Thank you for being part of it. There are 8 pictures that were posted on LinkedIn by Franciscan University Alumni Relations, and I would like to say I recognize at least 5 of the people in the photos from the social that had 40 people at it. So if you know math, that's about 12.5% the people at this. So I was super excited about this FOP that I kept getting emails about from Franciscan, and I was going to go, and then last minute I didn't feel well and simply could not drive to DC. And I'm really glad that I didn't go, because I simply could not have been incognito with 5 or 6 people that I was in school with and studied abroad with and was in classes with and in friend groups with in attendance at the FOP. I, like, the journalism side of me wanted to attend and like see how many people there were, like see what the vibe was. And so I'm so grateful that they randomly posted on LinkedIn about it instead. So yeah. What are your thoughts so far of?
I mean, they're saying things that all sound like very lovely, right? Like, we're going to promote the dignity of every human being. Right. But in the reality of the way that plays out in the church's political landscape, that is only advocated for insofar as opposing abortion and euthanasia and same-sex parenting.
The dignity of human beings to not be gay.
Or to not be raised by gay people, at least, you know.
Sure. So here are some details as promised about the donors who are driving this program in this initiative. It originated with the $10 million donation from Ward and Kathy Fitzgerald, who, to the best of our knowledge, got their money in real estate, because you can find their real estate websites, and they are big Catholic philanthropists. They've made a bunch of money and they establish a lot of things. So St. Charles Borromeo Seminary in Philadelphia announced earlier this year that Kathy and Ward Fitzgerald would be the recipients for this year's St. Charles Borromeo Award given by the Board of Trustees of St. Charles Borromeo Seminary to those who lead lives of deeply impactful service to others with humility. It was given by the Philadelphia Archbishop, presented to the couple on March 19th, 2025, the Feast of St. Joseph, during a gala in Philly. And he said, "The seminary is proud to honor Kathy and Ward Fitzgerald for their efforts in the local community, the Catholic community, and beyond, setting an example of servant leadership for others to follow," said Most Reverend Keith Chilinsky, rector of the seminary and auxiliary bishop of Philly. Also, sorry, I said Philly Archbishop. It's a bishop of Philly, it looks like, actually. But like St. Charles Borromeo, who lived a life of service and humility, the Fitzgeralds share their many talents and unwavering generosity for the betterment of our local and global community. The diocese also reported that as Philly philanthropists, Mr. and Mrs. Fitzgerald also support Project Home, the Papal Foundation, the National Center for Padre Pio, the Catholic Leadership Institute, the Institute for Real Estate, and the Institute for Church Life, Notre Dame, the University of Notre Dame, Franciscan University, Jefferson University's Hospital's Neurology Department, the Raphael Center for Neuro Restoration, as well as other charitable endeavors. So I just counted 9 things, 2 of which are different institutes at Notre Dame, 2 of which are neurology departments, also Franciscan, and then some other Catholic.
What is the home thing? That's also giving
Project Home.
Project Home?
Let me look. Project Home Fitzgerald. It's in Philly to address homelessness and poverty.
Oh, okay. That's nice.
It's a Philly-based
I was thinking this was more giving like the project, the Homeland Mission.
ProjectHome.org. Leadership at Project Home includes someone with the last name Fitzgerald. So I don't know, maybe somebody they're related to is involved there, and so they provide some financial backing, maybe. But Fitzgerald's common enough that I shouldn't say stuff I don't know about. But yeah, I found really interesting that they fund a lot of EDS, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and dysautonomia research. Mm-hmm. I assume that's with their neurology funding, right?
That's very all related.
So funding that through Jefferson University Hospital's neurology department and the Raphael Center for Neuro Restoration, as well as other charitable endeavors. So it could be they've donated to other things. So Notre Dame launched a real estate institute in their name, and they do EDS research, medical donations, homelessness donations, and as well as like the university and political stuff. So they seem to be kind of well-rounded individuals. I don't really have a lot to knock them. Here's more from when they got their award earlier this year. Mr. Fitzgerald is the CEO and senior managing principal of EQT Exeter, a global leader in real estate investment management with over 50 offices around the world. So he's basically a real estate billionaire, which I don't know. I have feelings about real estate, but whatever. Since the firm's founding in 2006, it has secured approximately $30 billion in fund equity commitments, representing pension, sovereign wealth, endowment, insurance, and foundation partners from around the globe. EQT Exeter's funds have made over 1,800 real estate investments, corresponding to over 2,500 properties in the warehouse, logistics, office, life science, and multifamily sectors. So apartments, office buildings, and warehouses. Prior to founding Exeter, Mr. Fitzgerald was part of the senior management team at a property trust public traded office, which he took public. The wife is a talented artisan and visionary creator, and worked recent projects including the Adoration Chapel at one parish and the welcoming vestibule at the Inn of Amazing Mercy in Kensington, PA. So they do a whole bunch of different things. They made this hefty donation to Franciscan with the stipulation that they wanted a Catholic Franciscan University presence in our nation's capital. And I think the big, there's several takeaways that I have from this whole situation. The first being that I would have written this off a few years ago as perfectly harmless, nothing suspicious about it. You're a major university. You want to have a presence in the nation's capital. You want Franciscan to have a presence in the nation's capital because you think Franciscan does good work and you think that could be good in DC. I thought that was pretty benign, but now I've been going deeper and deeper, finding all these connections with right-wing religion and politics. And for example, with the Project 2025 stuff, how conservative evangelicals founded the Heritage Foundation to push their values, and the Heritage Foundation has slowly built up like its presence and its influence and its lobbying power in the nation's capital to create this 1,000-page playbook for how Trump's second term should go and doing that. Did you see what Trump posted the other day? I think I sent it on Instagram. I don't have my phone.
I've seen so many things Trump has posted. I don't know what.
He posted something on Truth yesterday
about how like he loves Project 2025 where everything's going according to plan.
He said something about, I had this conversation with such and such a guy of Project 2025 fame about how their plan is going so well. And the post I saw specifically was somebody retweeting that tweet, all caps, saying, "Oh, Project 2025, the thing you know nothing about?
Yep.
But actually you're besties with this guy who's very involved and it's all going according to plan? Really?"
Lovely.
There's all the documents showing like comparing Project 2025 with the executive orders that he published
100%.
First day of his presidency and all this stuff. So there really is like the conservative religious like agenda has a lot of influence in politics right now. And Franciscan, like in all of this public media, has not really said what their stance is or what they, Father Dave saying in his little speech that Father Dave saying that the nation's capital really needs this presence and this Catholic presence in DC, when it's like, well, your side is winning. Like, how much do you agree with MAGA stuff? How happy are you with the way politics are? Or do you still see the politics as falling apart? Do you still see our culture as bad? And it's hard to tell, I think, where a lot of Catholics stand on this because they're not always obvious because they don't want to make either side angry, I think, by saying, like, do we know like what the general Franciscan stance is, pro or against Trump at this point in his presidency?
I mean, I can't say like I think it's very difficult to know right now where I'm not sitting through like homilies every Sunday at Franciscan. That'd be something I'd be curious to kind of dig into actually a little bit to try to find, I don't know, if there's any veins of sentiment around what's going on politically. I do remember back when I was in attendance of Franciscan, a lot of frequent conversation around abortion and transgender issues, gender ideology issues specifically, and like why that was going to be so great because Trump was going to be great at that. I do think that there's like a degree, obviously, I think there's a lot of people within the church who will play more nuanced than they are, or, say that they like have things they like and things that they dislike. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think that the narrative that exists within the church around, or at least within like the side of the church we come from, around abortion and abortion as a single issue voter, like type of thing. I think it did a lot of harm insofar as like, obviously, I think there's a lot of people who are faithful in the church who experience a lot of cognitive dissonance around a lot of the other things that happen within this administration. And at the end of the day, they still believe that this was like the lesser of two evils. And I do remember thinking when the Dobbs decision came out and Roe versus Wade was overturned, that like something within that might shift. Like we might kind of see some sort of turn where that could not be used as the single issue anymore. Like I did think we were going to have that happen because something kind of similar happened within the political parties when slavery was overturned, and it caused this big shift in party lines because that had been the major issue that was like the central focus of like which way you vote. Right. And so I did think when abortion got overturned, something like that was going to happen, but it seems like they've just like dug even further into like the culture war issues specifically around, I mean, I would say like migration and transgender individuals, I feel like are their main ones they dig into now. But I don't think that migration is talked about as heavily within a religious context because that one's obviously like there's a lot of things that don't quite make sense about that versus the trans issue, I think, or just like LGBTQ plus existence and rights in general, I think are a much larger sticking point that I
definitely would agree with you on that. I feel like the two big evils of our day are abortion and the gays. Yeah. The LGBT. And specifically the transing the kids. Like it's shocking to me how much I'll read something and it will talk about gender dysphoria. Like we also recorded an episode on Life Teen, and that mentions gender dysphoria.
Like multiple times without, like they're talking about like the 5 biggest issues for teens today. And
social media,
the one culture war
depression,
issue they dig into is gender ideology.
Gender dysphoria. And I was like, that's really interesting because that's just one subset of a group that in general you really dislike. I think we've moved on somehow from just like same-sex attraction to the trans, like really villainizing that. And that is... So I feel like there's been a shift from like definitely from abortion and gay marriage into trans and migrants are the big like
I think
scapegoats.
They're
right
the big
now, for
yeah
sure.
right now 100%.
But it's actually, you brought up the immigration stuff, and I was reading some articles that there was an immigration talk on campus. A tense but respectful discussion was the title of the newspaper article about it, and it was really difficult to read. I had it open on my phone for weeks and could not I could only read a little bit at a time because it was making me so frustrated, because I don't consider it a respectful discussion if you're discussing like human rights about, you know, and following the actual laws. But yeah, I'm like, so I find this so interesting because this also isn't something that was enabled just because of Trump's presidency. This has been in the works for years prior to this.
The culmination.
Okay, this is also a long game thing. So for example, like Heritage Foundation and Project 2025 vibes did not have the level of power when they were started last century as they do now, after doing slow work for a long time to like grow and influence and create a name for themselves. And I see that as well with Franciscan Homeland Mission, that they're, as we say, planting a seed or taking a small step in faith. Evelyn was part of the step in faith class at Franciscan. Shout out if you know what
they
that
did
is.
this thing. Yeah. Okay. We don't need to get into it. It's not that deep.
Yeah, it was like, it's a huge like part of the Franny lingo now, though, like taking a small step in faith for the Lord to do big things with. And we could like potentially see this grow. So I could see this either flopping and being like meaningless, or continue to add to the right wing like presence. And especially as we're seeing, I thought that Catholics were not super involved in politics. My impression growing up, Evelyn, is that we were like the strong minority when it comes to politics in our country.
Oh, 100%. I think that we were kind of just talking about this. Like, I think we've seen a major shift in like Catholicism being like somehow now the really conservative thing to do for these like conservative
cool
political
again.
figures. It's cool to be Catholic. It's like, it's almost one of those things where I feel like there's just this intensity about it of the more that I can, I guess just like the more intense I can be about it. And like now, I think conservatism has always been very intense in a lot of ways. You know, it's like the more I can be very bold and very, you know, not care what other people think.
Right.
And I think like Catholicism has become the new way to do that.
Right. They have like the tradition and the authority behind them that appeals to a lot of conservatives, which makes sense. But it's very interesting to me now, especially now having left the church and looking around and seeing Catholicism everywhere in politics right now. Vice president, members of the SCOTUS, you know, people like Candace Owens, so just political commentators, and all these, you know, evangelists popping up on social media now who have, Catholic converts. Catholicism is sort of riding a wave right now, and waves come and go, they rise and fall. But it's interesting to now be on the outside of the church on a time where it feels like the wave is rising. It's interesting. So I'm definitely going to keep an eye on the Homeland Mission and see what it does, because I can definitely see this growing and continuing to add to the influence. One of the big things, though, that I just really get from this, I sort of mentioned it earlier, but just like how much donor dollars drive the world, like drive so much. If you hold the money, you like hold the power over kind of everything, not only like the means of production and wealth, but also what kinds of projects get funding. You can pay people to do whatever it is that you want. If you want there to be something in DC, you'll give somebody $10 million to establish a Catholic presence in DC.
Yeah, I guess, but I do feel that they would have loved to have done that either way. You know, like it's like, yes, the donor dollars are driving it in some sense, but I also think that is something they've been very involved for a very long time.
I think you might have a point with that, but from the internal discussions that like I had at the time when I was still in Steubenville was really that a lot of people at the university were confused about, well, what does this even look like? Because we are a university. We're not just like a think tank or something.
Right.
And so how do we do this in a way that's aligned with our mission and our main educational identity as a university? Franciscan is like also trying to be a ministry thing. So they have, you know, the Steubenville Conference's arm of things, and, you know, and which makes sense because, I mean, when I think about it, universities traditionally, they do research.
Right.
They have libraries and archives, and like university teaching hospitals are like a major important part of our infrastructure, medical infrastructure. So it's not unheard of for universities to do things that aren't strictly like teaching classes. But
Well, 100%. I mean, especially if you're trying to start a poli-sci program. But I think we should have some level of concern around the motivations. Like they use words like public servants, but I do not feel that that is the way a lot of people within right-wing Catholic politics actually feel, as if they don't feel beholden to the public that elects them. They feel beholden to their faith values. And I think that's the part that's concerning. And I think it's something that was so conflicting for me within the church, is just this idea that like, well, yeah, like religious people shouldn't be precluded from politics. Like they shouldn't be like not allowed to have opinions. But I just think it's difficult when you're putting someone in a position of service. That's what, I mean, obviously we've seen that like generally politics in America do not operate in this way anymore, where it's actually like serving the needs of the people who elected them. But I think there's something particular about it when you're having someone who comes from fundamentalist Catholicism in that kind of position, where they're obviously going to be using it to further what they think, and they are not going to feel, they're going to feel far more of an obligation to their religious convictions than they're going to feel to the actual office that they hold as a public servant. And I feel that way about like people who are this kind of Catholic in psychology and social work. Like it's like hard sometimes for them to be able to actually put their profession and the standards of that profession above their ideology.
Oh, definitely. Like in social work, when it comes to things like using preferred pronouns, or
these are huge conversations I was having
like
in my classes, doing human development and family studies.
Yeah. Doing therapy for gay gay clients who want to live a gay lifestyle.
100%.
Yeah. Well, here is, to close us out, the end of the press release that the article began with. Okay, we're going to hear from one more person who's been involved in the founding of the Homeland Mission. So the Homeland Mission is part of the new Franciscan University Encounter Initiative. Like I said, Encounter DC is one location for the Encounter Initiative, which works to bring together the university's academic, administrative, and evangelization resources to spread its mission and impact far beyond the Steubenville, Ohio campus. Stephen Catanzer, who is an employee of the university, who is leading programming and operations for the Homeland Mission in partnership with the Poli-Sci Department, the Institute for Catholic Humanitarian Service, and many other Franciscan University departments, said he cannot wait to see what Franciscan students can do in a city sorely in need of truth, beauty, and goodness. Mark off the transcendentals on your bingo cards. Quote, today's dedication starts a new chapter in Franciscans' history of service to our nation and to the world. Through the Homeland Mission, we are creating new opportunities, relationships, and encounter that will prepare and equip our students to be joyful disciples while working in and around the federal government. So they want people to be working in the highest levels of government in the legislative process. Through strategic partnerships, immersive programming, and a shared commitment to promoting Catholic social teaching, the Homeland Mission invites collaboration and advances the common good. You can partner with us or make a gift. Ongoing collaborations, our partners include, here we go. Ready? The Heritage Foundation.
Wonderful.
Starting off strong. The National Journalism Center. The American Principles Project. The Ethics and Public Policy Center. Are you familiar with the Ethics and Public Policy Center? Is Mary Rice Hassan's whatever. She was recently recognized by Franciscan at their commencement. Yes. The Young Americas Foundation. The Museum of the Bible. OMG, which itself is funded by Hobby Lobby with all of their smuggled artifact money. Catholic Charities of the Diocese of Pittsburgh and the St. John Paul II National Shrine, and a growing number of congressional offices and federal agencies. Together, we are creating real-world opportunities that equip students to engage public life with faith, excellence, and leadership. Student opportunities. Are you a student interested in learning about programs, trips, or other opportunities in DC? Or maybe you're already heading there for a career-related endeavor and need a place to stay? Click below to discover how you can get involved and take your next steps in public service. That just takes you to an email. Wonder to have you automatically email the guy who runs it. So I kind of wish that I had gone ahead and reached out for more information with the email address they've pasted everywhere to ask for to request info from. But to be honest, I didn't have an email address I could use for that. And that was a little bit too much work than what I wanted to be doing. But that is just a little bit about the Homeland Mission. I thought it was important to cover this because part of what I really wanted out of this podcast was to create a news source and a source for information to sort of put on blast some things, to make things in a centralized location, information about different Catholic projects and stuff like that, and to keep on top of what the different big figures in the American Catholic evangelical world are up to. Mm-hmm. And I think it's definitely interesting that Franciscan is doing this, and also that so far the only public events and initiatives or actual things that they've advertised doing are FOPs and prayer services.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how this continues to unfold and what we continue to learn about it, because I'm sure it will all be so lovely, especially with a partner like the Heritage Foundation.
Oh my gosh, it'll be incredible. Good for them. I wouldn't be surprised if they got involved with the National Review as well, because they have a location in DC and there's some Catholics who work there who have some connections to Franciscan. So the think tank piece will definitely grow as well. But yeah. Well, thank you for listening to this episode of the Leave, Laugh, Love podcast. Give us a follow at Leave, Laugh, Love Pod on Instagram and YouTube to stay up to date. Follow the pod on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. How much value does this podcast add to your life? $1 a month? $2 a month? $3 a month? Consider supporting us on Patreon. Please and thank you. We're super excited about this new YouTube rollout. If you're listening to this on a normal podcast platform, okay, that's fine too. But also you can check out our YouTube channel to see our really cute set that we're recording in and help us, leave us some comments to help our engagement as we try to reach a bigger audience and grow our audience. I think that's it for this week. Yeah. Until next week, keep living, laughing, and loving.
Bye.
Bye.